We are following breaking news out of Los Angeles, where Hunter Biden has just pleaded not guilty to federal tax charges. Last month, prosecutors charged the president's son with 9 counts of tax crimes. The charges were brought by special counsel David Weiss in the second federal indictment of the president's son secured by his office. If convicted, he faces up to 17 years in prison. Criminal defense attorney Joseph Tully joins us now. Joseph, great to see you again. What are the next steps now that Hunter Biden has pleaded not guilty?
Well, there will be a series of court dates allowing time for the parties to see if they can come to an agreement. If you recall, there were previous charges where a plea agreement fell apart between the prosecution and Hunter Biden's defense team. Because those charges are now separated, the gun charges in Delaware and the tax charges are now in California. This is sort of a reset. It gives both parties time to sort of readdress a possible plea agreement. It also gives the parties time to work out discovery issues. Believe it or not, when you start a case, a lot of times it's very difficult to get all of the discovery, paperwork, witness statements, electronic files that you need in order to defend the case.
I'm glad you brought up that plea agreement because these tax charges were going to be part of it before it fell apart in the 11th hour. But Hunter Biden's team, he was ready to move forward. So will that impact this case at all?
In terms of the Delaware case moving forward on the separate gun charge now?
Yeah, because this plea agreement that you mentioned that fell apart, they included these tax charges from today. And so because at the time, even though it never went through, Hunter Biden was prepared to take a plea agreement. Could that impact him? Could it come back and haunt him in any way as this case proceeds?
Sure. Well, I think it already has come back to haunt him, so to speak. The plea agreement, he was going to get diversion on the gun case, meaning if he jumped through certain hoops and stayed good, that charge would be dismissed, and he would plead to misdemeanors on the tax case. By that plea agreement falling apart and kind of not, taking emergency measures to fix it, that allowed this Los Angeles case to happen. And now he's facing multiple felonies in addition to misdemeanors. And likely he'll face, he won't have as good of a plea agreement in the Los Angeles case now that he had against the tax charges when it was in Delaware.
Got it. Thank you. And I want to bring in Erica Brown, who is a reporter for CBS News. She is outside the courthouse. She has been inside all day following this case. Erica, can you tell us what prosecutors are alleging Hunter Biden did in this case?
Yeah, good afternoon, Weija. So federal prosecutors are alleging that Hunter Biden engaged in a 4-year scheme to avoid paying at least $1.4 million in taxes. Then a 56-page indictment. This is a 9-count indictment that includes three felony counts, 6 misdemeanor counts that allege that Hunter Biden failed to file and pay taxes. It alleges tax evasion, and it also alleges that he filed fraudulent tax returns. And in that indictment, it talks about how Hunter Biden filed personal expenditures, personal expenses as business deductions that would ultimately lower his taxable income as part of his scheme to avoid paying taxes, among other violations. And so if convicted, he's facing up to 17 years in prison. Just behind me a few moments ago, he entered a not guilty plea to all 9 counts. And this is just the beginning of a second potential federal trial facing Hunter Biden. If we look back to last year, he pleaded not guilty to federal gun charges in a district of Delaware. And so we have potentially 2 federal trials that could be happening in an election year facing the president's son.
And can you tell us anything about his demeanor today? Obviously, this was very quick. But did he appear in any way to you as you were watching it unfold?
Yeah, so the arraignment today, it's still underway. I was in there for just a few moments. It appeared to be very procedural, nothing unusual. The judge, this was District Judge, Mark Scarcy, asked Hunter Biden if he understood his charges, if he understood his rights. He answered yes. He asked him to explain his plea. He was asked what is his plea to all 9 counts, and he pleaded not guilty. So this was an opportunity for the district judge, who said actually he's facilitating this hearing to help streamline the process. This would actually usually go before a magistrate judge, but in this case, we had the district judge oversee this arraignment process. And so this is the first time that the judge had an opportunity to sit before both parties, federal prosecutors, Hunter Biden, kind of map out how this case is going to lay out in terms of timeline and also potentially bail conditions, pretrial motions. We could potentially see Hunter Biden's attorneys file a motion to dismiss, which is what they did in the federal case facing him in the District of Delaware. So this is very procedural, just kind of a roadmap to see how things are going to lay out as this case proceeds.
And Erica, as you alluded to, this is not new for Hunter Biden. He has other legal issues. Can you talk about how this case compares to those and what we can expect next in this case in terms of the timeline?
Yeah, so this indictment comes after a plea agreement unraveled in federal court last summer in the District of Delaware. And that plea agreement, that included 2 misdemeanor tax charges and also a diversion agreement that included some of the gun offenses that he's now facing separately, felony charges in the District of Delaware. So that case fell apart, that plea agreement fell apart in the District of Delaware when a federal judge questioned the terms and whether or not that plea agreement meant that Hunter Biden would be shielded from any prison time and further charges. Both the prosecution and the defense could not agree on that. And so the judge would not accept that plea agreement and unraveled. And then Hunter Biden shortly after faced that indictment in the District of Delaware on 3 felony gun charges. And that is related to his alleged unlawful possession of a firearm while he was under the influence of drugs or addicted to drugs. And then we saw this indictment come down separately on 9 counts, 6 misdemeanors, 3 felonies alleging his willful failure to file and pay taxes during tax years 2016 through 2019.
Erica, thank you so much. Don't go anywhere right now, but I want to turn back over to criminal defense attorney Joseph Tully for now. So, Joseph, what are the next steps now that Hunter Biden has pleaded not guilty for any viewers just joining us now?
Sure. So again, pleading not guilty is the kickoff. It's very procedural. Nothing happens on arraignment, even though everybody's most nervous because it's the first day of court. So likely both sides will start proposing settlement offers, and they will also start working through discovery issues. Also, as your reporter just brought up, the defense will start filing motions. And I would expect, because these are very good defense attorneys, for them to file a lot of motions, very solid motions, and to pursue every opportunity that they have to represent their client and to advocate for him. So I would expect there to be a lot of litigation in this, which will further give them leverage in terms of settlement. In other words, look, prosecution, we filed 6 really good motions. Why don't we settle the case going this way? So filing the pretrial motions can also give the defense leverage.
And can you talk about the timeline going forward and how long it could take for any resolution here?
Sure. So we haven't heard for sure, but there's 2 choices that an accused can have when you do arraignment. One is to say, I'm ready for trial. I'm pleading not guilty. Bring it on. I want my speedy trial. That's very, very rare to do at arraignment. So Hunter Biden probably waived time, which is to tell the judge, we will not go on a speedy trial basis. Let's give this case some breathing room. Let us work out discovery issues. Let settlement discussions happen, and let us prepare our pretrial motions. And sometimes there's a synergy between filing the pretrial motions and discovery. You can't file motions if you haven't reviewed the entire case. So there's usually a lot to sort out. And because it's on a time-waived basis, I believe, it hasn't been confirmed one way or the other, because I would assume, or assuming that it is on a time-waived basis, really, there's no definitive timeline right now. A judge won't really hammer home a deadline of, listen, I want this case wrapped up by X date, one way or another. That will happen in the future, or could happen in the future, but it won't happen initially in the case. The judge will give both parties time to kind of get situated in their positions.
And Erica just walked us through some of the charges. We know that Hunter Biden faces up to 17 years in prison. Based on what you have covered in comparable cases, what is the likelihood that the defendant serves prison time if convicted in cases like this?
Well, I mean, Hunter Biden has a couple things going for him, and he has, a couple things going against him. Number one, he's paid back everything. So there's really no lasting injury, so to speak. And number two, it's not a defense, but it is mitigation. He was admittedly going through a drug, a drug relapse where he was very addicted to drugs. So there's not really there's some excuse for the culpability. Again, it's not a defense, but in terms of mitigation, in terms of saying, Judge, this really isn't me, I didn't mean to do that, he has that going for him. On the other hand, he was making lots and lots of money, and he wasn't paying his taxes. And then when he did pay his taxes, or paid part of it, the allegations are that he was, manipulating his data, his filings, his tax returns, so that he would pay less taxes than he should have under the law. So I wouldn't expect him to get off with a slap on the wrist at this point, facing these serious charges and with so much time hanging over his head. I would expect some kind of custody time, but I would suggest it would be a low amount of time in the single digits rather than the full 17 years.
I know the White House has gone to great lengths to say that, look, this is a private citizen, but he is the president's son. I wonder if that is going to impact this case at all, in your view.
Well, it certainly is the elephant in the room. However, as a citizen, as an attorney, I would like to see a fair and unbiased pursuit of justice here by both sides. So I think, again, it is the elephant in the room, but it shouldn't be mentioned. It shouldn't be brought up. It shouldn't be used as leverage by one side or the other. And I'm talking about the government who's prosecuting the case, or Hunter Biden's defense attorneys.
Joseph Tully and Erica Brown, thank you both so much for helping us understand what just happened today. Again, Hunter Biden has pleaded not guilty.